Testing 1, 2, 3. Warning, the following video may contain adult language and themes. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. If you have a problem with this, please stop playing this video now. Okay, I just got done watching Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5, The Dream Child, and Part 6, Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare. I forgot to review Part 5, but I'll probably do a separate video on that. But just to let you know, I think that one's the worst in the series. That one was just terrible. But I was pleasantly surprised by this one. This is Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare. Yeah, right. They made more. This is Part 6, rated R. Was made in 1991, so this is breaking into the 90s. It's got a 4 point. I don't think I can't remember what date the previous one was, but it had to have been the 80s. I don't think it was 1990. But anyway, so this has got 4.9 on Internet Movie Database, and it was directed by Rachel Talalay. Interesting. I've never heard of her. It stars Robert Englund, of course. And a lot of people I don't recognize. Somebody I do recognize though, Breckin Meyer. Breckin Meyer is in this. He's I think he's somewhat of a main character. He's one of the teenagers that gets killed off. Oop, did I say too much? Anyway, stars Robert Englund, Lisa Zane, and a whole bunch of other people I've never heard of. Maybe they're famous, but I've never heard of them. Oh, and there's a guest appearance by Johnny Depp. And also, Yaphet Kotto is in it, and I recognize him most from Alien 1. And he's a pretty good actor. Anyway, so the summation is, this movie starts out with like this text scroll, and it says that all the children in America are dead or something like that, and that there's only one surviving child. And it opens to that child, I believe, on an airplane, like flying on an airplane, and it through a storm at night with a whole bunch of other people on this passenger airplane. And this is a weird movie because I don't believe it has anything to do with the previous movie. Like, I may be wrong, but I don't think anybody from the previous movie is in this one. If they were, it was a quick thing and I missed it because I didn't recognize any of the names, I didn't recognize any of the people. Obviously, all the actors are different in this movie, so I don't know. And this is just a weird one. They didn't even try to tie it to the previous one. It's just completely out of nowhere. So yeah, it starts off with a text scroll of this world where all the children are dead except this one child who's on this plane, and he starts, the plane breaks open and he flies out of the plane and he's falling and he's like, ah, and then we're all assuming this is a dream, and there's all these stunts where he's like in a falling house or something, and Freddy's outside, doing his Wicked Witch of the West impression, and it's like this. I think this is the one where people say Freddy got too comical and Freddy got too over the top and just silly. In the previous installments, it was sort of becoming that. But in this one, he's full on he might as well just be the Joker, pretty much, at this point. He's not as threatening, he doesn't look as grotesque, his costume doesn't look as good, it just looks more rubbery. He's just completely lost his edge that he had in the first and second one. I like the second one, honestly. I really do. I'll probably review that one eventually, but the first and second one are in my opinion, are where Freddy was at his scariest, and they tried to make him his scariest. It may not scare you, but they were at least trying their hardest to make him the scariest, and not like a Joker who mugged at the camera and went, ah, ha, 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 and had it's prime time, bitch, and then have all these catchphrases. No, he just wasn't as silly in those two. But anyway, so this kid, he's going through this dream, and Freddy ends up, I can't remember all the details, it's kind of forgettable, but Freddy ends up hitting him with a bus and throws him out of the dream world, I'm assuming, and he breaks when the kid flies off of the bus, he breaks this rift in space and time, and he falls into this other world, that called, I can't remember what the name, I think it was Springville, I can't remember. So forgettable, such a forgettable name. And Freddy's bring me back some children or something, and he closes the rift in space and time. So, this is such a weird opening. We're to assume, I think, that kid was in Dreamland or something. Oh man, this movie is so confusing too. They don't even bother to play by the rules in this movie. They just throw all the rules completely out the window. And this movie just kind of doesn't give a fuck. And let me say, I actually was pleasantly surprised by this movie. I kind of liked it. It kind of blended the comedy with the horror, so it's more of a comedy than a horror. This movie feels like it was directed by Sam Raimi, to be quite honest. The Sam Raimi who made the Evil Dead series. It's that hilarious at times. Um, so the kid basically, when he goes through the space-time rift into the real world, like he hits his head on a rock and he has amnesia or something, and he's wandering around the streets, and he gets picked up by these police officers, and they take him to this youth shelter where all these troubled youth come to get rehabilitated. And we obviously get introduced to like other youths, the meat, the new meat that's gonna be that Freddy's gonna kill off. I think one is like a deaf kid, one's a tough chick, one's Breckin Meyer, who's like a rich kid who just went there because he's a troubled teen, and his dad wants him to be like him. Breckin Meyer, man, this is it's funny seeing him in this because he's really young and he's like a stoner. And there's like this doc who's played by what's his name? Yaphet Kotto, who the guy who starred in Alien. He's a psychiatrist there, and then there's this other woman who I think is a psychiatrist too. And so this kid, the kid who fell through the space-time rift, lost all his memory, so he doesn't know who he is, and like he keeps going on. He had this article on him when he fell through the space-time rift, so they refer to him as John Doe because nobody knows who he is. And so when the woman doctor who goes there to talk to him, like she says, we need to go to this town, Springwood, which is a little ways away, to face your fears or something like that. And so she takes him there because I think when the kid fell through the space-time rift, he had an article on him that said something about Freddy Krueger or something. And so they take him there, and the three teenagers at the rehabilitation center like stow away on the van with them, and they go to this is where it gets real weird. They go to Springwood or whatever, and there's no kids there because apparently, and all the adults there, when they see the kids, come from the troubled shelter, they're like, oh, children, oh, stay with us, And I swear to God, I saw Roxanne in there, Roseanne, or what was that show with that really fat woman, who played alongside John Goodman. I swear to God, that woman was in the cast there, but I may be mistaken. But so this is where it gets really weird, like, when the girl doctor sees that those other three kids stowed away on the van were trying to escape, she's like, you need to take this van back to the shelter and turn yourselves in or I'm calling the police. And they're like, okay. And the woman and the John Doe kid go to investigate the town and try to find out about Freddy Krueger. And so the kids, like, they try to escape the town in the van, but they keep going in circles. It's sort of like the Matrix Revolutions, where Neo's trying to escape the subway and he keeps circling back to where he was. And so they can't escape the town. And so we're left wondering, is this the dream world again? What's going on here? Like, this is supposedly the real world, right? So, I mean, this movie just doesn't give a fuck. Like, it doesn't even play by its own rules, so these kids are on this time loop. They can't escape the city. And so they're like, oh well, we'll just stay in this house, this abandoned house that's for sale, and in the morning we'll try to escape again in the city called Springwood. And so they stay in this house, and they go inside, and immediately the house transforms into that red doored house from the first movie, and that's present in every other single movie. Jesus Christ, it's so iconic. Like, why did they make that an icon out of that? And it's like, so what? So apparently this is not the real world. Like, what's going on here? And so they go in the house, and Breckin Meyer gets stoned, and Freddy, like, starts controlling him, like, with this video game, and, like, Breckin Meyer's, like, bouncing around like Mario, and it's just like, yeah, this movie has just completely gone off the wall. It's so hilarious. Yeah, so Breckin Meyer gets pulled into hell. Eventually, Freddy, like, pulls Breckin Meyer into hell. Bye-bye, Breckin Meyer. And there's, like, a little, Johnny Depp, like, cameo when Breckin Meyer is watching TV while he's stoned, and Johnny Depp's like, this is your brain. He holds up this egg and he cracks it and like puts it in a frying pan. This is your brain on drugs. And then like Freddy like punches out Johnny Depp, and then the nightmare begins with Breckin Meyer. And then the deaf kid also gets killed too, and obviously Freddy, being the comedic genius he is, he does it, in a fashion that, like, he uses deafness in his death, he likes, he like gives the kid a hearing aid that like blows up his head, and of course, like, that's what Freddy does, like, in all these movies. He uses a theme or a motif to kill someone off, so he plays on their fears, and it's silly. But like, this movie's silly, and it goes full retard, but it's funny, kind of. And so what happens is, it turns out, like, Freddy had a child, apparently. Yeah, I didn't know Freddy had a child. Like, it turns out, like, Freddy was actually married, and his wife found out, and he had a child. His wife found out about his killing all these kids because she went into the cellar and saw like his claws and shit and all that shit. And so Freddy ends up killing his wife, and I think what happens is his daughter gets taken away, and so it turns out that the girl doctor is actually his daughter. So, and and then, man, I can't remember everything that happens, but what happens at the end, basically, they realize that to kill Freddy, you gotta pull him out of the dream world, which I think they use in the first one. So the girl daughter goes in and, like, grabs Freddy and she pulls him out, and then they, like, they have this, like, knife fight with all this, like, weaponry that's at the children's shelter, because the children, are troubled, and they have, like, pipe bombs and fucking throwing ninja stars. It's actually pretty cool. Like, she ends up throwing all these, like, knives and shit at Freddy and, like, pins him up against the wall and uses a pipe bomb and blows the shit out of him. I thought it was pretty funny. I thought it was pretty good. Yeah, ironic. Yeah, that's why I heard what people didn't like about the series the most was it got too comical. But ironically, this is probably the best out of the ones I've reviewed so far. 3 through 6, which is this one. This is probably the best because it's so funny, it's so corny, and so over the top that I kind of liked it. I don't know what I give it yet. I'm leaning more toward like a 6.7 or 6.8, but it wasn't that bad. So it's called Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare. And it's not the final nightmare. I'm pretty sure they made another one. I think the next one is A New Nightmare, and they again they drag back the original girl from the first one, which I never really liked her that much. She was adequate in the first one, but why did they keep reusing her? I have no fucking idea. But anyway, yep. So take it easy. This one was pretty good, highly underrated. It's the comedy's good. I liked it. I bought into it. I thought it was goofy. I thought it was funny in watching Breckin Meyer and Johnny Depp so young. But anyway, take it easy. Bye.